Have you ever wondered if some encounters are more than coincidence? If you've ever felt that life sometimes places people in your path exactly when you need them most, this story will touch your heart. If this journey of unexpected love and healing moves you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us of the power of human connection. Mark Donovan gripped the cold metal railing of his daughter's hospital bed, his knuckles white with tension. 6-year-old Lily lay sleeping, her small chest rising and falling beneath the thin hospital blanket, and 4 lines snaking from her arm. The beeping of monitors provided a steady, mechanical soundtrack to his fear. 3 days since the diagnosis, juvenile diabetes, and Mark still couldn't wrap his mind around the lifetime of management that lay ahead for his little girl. "You should get some coffee," whispered a nurse, touching his shoulder gently. "She'll be sleeping for a while. The cafeteria is on the 2nd floor." Mark nodded, though the thought of leaving Lily's side, even for a moment, made his stomach clench. But the headache pounding behind his eyes reminded him he'd barely eaten or slept since the ambulance ride that had brought them here. The hospital cafeteria was nearly empty at 7 p.m. Mark ordered black coffee and a sandwich he wasn't sure he could eat. As he turned from the counter, balancing the tray with unsteady hands, he nearly collided with a woman carrying a cup of tea. "I'm so sorry," he mumbled, catching himself. "No harm done," she replied, her voice soft but clear. Something in her tone made Mark look up. She was about his age, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore scrubs, but not the same color as the nurses on Lily's floor. Her eyes were kind but carried shadows that Mark recognized all too well, the weight of worry that seemed to press down on his own shoulders. "Rough day?" she asked, gesturing to an empty table. Mark hesitated, then nodded. Something about her seemed safe, and the prospect of sitting alone with his thoughts was suddenly unbearable. "My daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 3 days ago," he said as they sat. The words felt strange in his mouth, as if saying them aloud made the situation more real. "She's 6. The woman's face softened with genuine concern. "I'm so sorry. I'm Claire, by the way. I work in physical therapy here." "Mark," he replied. "And thanks. It's been overwhelming." Claire nodded. "I can imagine. Are you here alone?" The question hit a tender spot. "Yes. It's just Lily and me. Her mother left when she was 2. Claire didn't offer the usual platitudes or pitying looks that Mark had grown accustomed to. Instead, she simply said, "That must make this even harder." For some reason, her straightforward acknowledgement broke something open in Mark. Before he knew it, he was telling this stranger about his fears, not just about Lily's diagnosis, but about his ability to handle it all as a single parent who already felt like he was barely keeping his head above water. "I'm terrified of messing up," he admitted. "The doctors keep talking about insulin management and carb counting and emergency protocols, and I can barely remember to check if she's brushed her teeth some nights." Claire listened without interruption, her eyes never leaving his face. When he finally ran out of words, she reached across the table and briefly touched his hand. "You won't be perfect," she said. "But you'll learn, and you'll be exactly what Lily needs." There was something in her certainty that steadied him. "You sound like you know what you're talking about." A shadow crossed her face. "I do, actually. My son was diagnosed with type 1 when he was 8. He's 17 now." Mark felt a surge of hope. "And he's okay?" Claire's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "He's thriving. Playing baseball, getting ready for college." She paused. "But I lost him last year. Not to diabetes, his father got custody when we divorced. They moved to Seattle." The pain in her voice was raw, and Mark understood suddenly why she had recognized his loneliness so easily. She was carrying her own. "I'm sorry," he said, meaning it. Claire shrugged, trying to appear casual though her eyes betrayed her. It happens. But I know a lot about raising a child with diabetes. If you ever have questions. Before Mark could respond, his phone buzzed. A text from the nurse. Lily was awake and asking for him. I have to go, he said, standing quickly. But thank you. Really? Claire nodded. Anytime. Mark hurried back to Lily's room, his mind still partly on the woman in the cafeteria. For the first time in days, he felt a small lightening of the weight on his shoulders. The next morning, as Mark was helping Lily with her breakfast and trying to remember how to count the carbohydrates in her small bowl of cereal, there was a knock at the door. Claire stood there, holding a tote bag. I hope you don't mind, she said, looking suddenly uncertain. I thought these might help. She pulled out several books and a colorful binder. These are the resources that saved my sanity when Jason was diagnosed. The binder has meal plans with carb counts already calculated. Lily looked up curiously. Who are you? I'm Claire. I work at the hospital helping people get stronger. I'm Lily. I have diabetes now, the little girl said matter-of-factly, with the directness only children possess. Claire smiled. I know. My son has diabetes too. He got it when he was a little older than you. Lily's eyes widened. Does it hurt him too when he gets shots? It did at first, Claire said, sitting in the chair beside the bed. But he got really brave about it. Want to know his secret? Mark watched as his daughter nodded eagerly, already captivated. He would name his insulin pen. Called it the superhero stick because it gave him special powers to eat birthday cake. Lily giggled, and Mark felt a rush of gratitude so intense it nearly brought tears to his eyes. It was the first time his daughter had laughed since they'd arrived at the hospital. Over the next few days, Claire became a regular visitor. Though she wasn't assigned to Lily's case, she would stop by during breaks or after her shift. She showed Mark how to calculate insulin doses with confidence and taught Lily a finger-pricking technique that hurt less. More importantly, she brought a sense of normalcy and hope to their frightening new reality. You're a lifesaver, Mark told her on the day before Lily was scheduled to be discharged. I don't know how to thank you. Claire shook her head. No thanks needed. I remember how terrifying those first weeks were. Mark hesitated, then gathered his courage. Would you, maybe want to get coffee sometime? Outside the hospital, I mean. Claire's expression clouded. Mark, just as friends, he added quickly. Someone to talk to who understands. No pressure. The tension in her shoulders eased slightly. I'd like that. As friends. The day Mark took Lily home, Claire gave them both her phone number. Call anytime, she told Mark. Day or night. Diabetes questions don't follow business hours. The first week at home was a blur of anxiety and new routines. Mark called Claire twice, once at 2 a.m. when Lily's blood sugar dropped suddenly and he panicked, and again when he couldn't remember how to adjust her insulin for a fever. Each time, Claire talked him through it calmly. On the weekend, they met at a park. Lily raced to the playground while Mark and Claire sat on a bench, watching her. She seems to be adjusting well, Claire observed. Mark nodded. Better than me. I still wake up every hour to check on her. That will ease with time, Claire assured him. Though I still sometimes check Jason's continuous glucose monitor app in the middle of the night, even though he's across the country. Mark studied her profile. You must miss him terribly. Claire kept her eyes on the playground. Every day. His father remarried last year. His new wife is nice, sends me photos, updates. But it's not the same as being there. Why did he get custody? Mark asked, then immediately regretted it. I'm sorry, that's none of my business. Claire was quiet for so long that Mark thought she wouldn't answer. Finally, she said, I was struggling with depression after my mother died. I wasn't present. By the time I got help, Robert had already filed for divorce and primary custody. The judge felt stability was important for a child with a chronic condition. The unfairness of it struck Mark hard. But you're the one who understood his condition best. Claire's smile was sad. The court saw a father with a new partner, financial stability, and a mother who had been on antidepressants. It wasn't a hard decision for them. Mark wanted to say something comforting, but nothing seemed adequate. Instead, he simply said, "I'm glad you're here now, helping us." Over the following months, Claire became an essential part of their lives. She helped Mark navigate school forms and taught Lily's teacher how to recognize signs of low blood sugar. She came over for dinner once a week, bringing recipes specially designed for easy carb counting. She attended Lily's dance recital and cheered louder than anyone when Lily nailed her routine, despite having to wear her glucose monitor under her costume. Mark found himself looking forward to her visits more than he wanted to admit. He noticed the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, how she always remembered Lily's favorite color, how she never made him feel inadequate for asking the same questions repeatedly. But he was careful to respect the boundaries she had set. Friends. Nothing more. Claire had enough complications in her life without adding a relationship with a single father to the mix. Then came the night of Lily's first severe hypoglycemic episode. Mark had been checking her blood sugar regularly, but somehow, between dinner and bedtime, it had plummeted. He found her confused and sweating, barely able to speak. With shaking hands, he administered the emergency glucagon injection just as Claire had taught him, then called 911. His next call was to Claire. She met them at the emergency room, her hair still wet from the shower, wearing mismatched shoes. She stayed through the night, explaining medical terms Mark was too panicked to understand, bringing him coffee, and sitting beside Lily's bed while Mark stepped out to call his boss and explain why he wouldn't be at work the next day. When Lily was finally cleared to go home the following afternoon, Claire drove them, then insisted on staying to make dinner while Mark got Lily settled. "You don't have to do all this," Mark said, finding her in the kitchen chopping vegetables. Claire didn't look up. "I know. I want to." "Why?" The question had been building in him for months. Claire's hands stilled. She set down the knife and turned to face him. "Because I know what it's like to be alone with this. Because Lily reminds me of Jason at that age. Because..." She took a deep breath. "Because being with you both makes me feel less lonely." The honesty in her voice broke something open between them. Mark stepped closer. "Claire, Dad." Lily called from her bedroom. "My pump is beeping." The moment shattered. Claire stepped back, and Mark went to help his daughter. Later that night, after Lily was asleep and Claire was preparing to leave, Mark found the courage to speak again. "I don't want to be just friends," he said quietly. "I've tried to respect your boundaries, but I need to be honest. I'm falling in love with you, Claire." Claire froze, her hand on the doorknob. "Mark, you don't know what you're saying. You're grateful because I've helped with Lily. That's not the same as..." "It's not gratitude," he interrupted. "Or not just gratitude. It's the way you see the world. How you face your own pain but still have so much compassion for others. It's how you remember that Lily likes the crusts cut off her sandwiches and how you never make me feel like I'm failing as a father when I make mistakes." Claire turned to face him, her expression vulnerable. "I'm a mess, Mark. I'm still fighting for more visitation with Jason. I work crazy hours. I have baggage you can't imagine." "I have plenty of my own," he replied. "But maybe we could carry it together." For a long moment, Claire was silent. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not just of getting hurt, but of hurting you. Or Lily." Mark took her hand. "I'm scared too. But I think some things are worth being brave for." Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a question rather than a declaration. When they pulled apart, Claire's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "One day at a time," she suggested. Mark smiled. One day at a time. The months that followed weren't easy. There were adjustments and compromises. Claire's schedule at the hospital sometimes meant cancelled plans. Mark's insecurities about his parenting occasionally surfaced as defensiveness. Lily went through periods of resenting the attention her diabetes required and the changes in her routine. But there were beautiful moments too. Claire teaching Lily to swim without worrying about her insulin pump. Mark supporting Claire through difficult phone calls with her ex-husband about Jason's college plans. The three of them creating new traditions: Sunday morning pancakes with carefully measured ingredients, movie nights with snacks that fit Lily's meal plan. 6 months after they began dating, Claire received news that changed everything. Jason had decided he wanted to attend college in their state, just 2 hours away from where they lived. "He wants to stay with me on weekends," Claire told Mark, her voice trembling with joy and disbelief. Robert agreed. "He says Jason is old enough to make these decisions." Mark pulled her into a tight embrace. "That's wonderful. When does he arrive?" 3 weeks, Claire said. "But Mark, this changes things. I'll need to focus on rebuilding my relationship with him. I don't know if this is the right time for us to." "Stop," Mark said gently. "Do you think I would ever ask you to choose? We'll make it work. Jason is part of your life, which means he's part of ours now too." Claire looked at him with wonder. "How did I get so lucky?" "I ask myself the same question every day," Mark replied. Jason's arrival brought new dynamics to their relationship. He was quiet and reserved at first, watching the interactions between his mother, Mark, and Lily with cautious eyes. But Lily, with her 6-year-old directness, broke through his teenage coolness by simply asking him to show her how he managed his diabetes. "Mom says you're really good at it," she told him. "I want to be good at it too." Something in Jason softened. He spent an hour showing Lily his continuous glucose monitor app and the tricks he'd learned for giving himself injections without bruising. Mark watched from the doorway, his heart full as he saw Claire observing her son with a mixture of pride and lingering sadness for the years they'd lost. That night, after both children were asleep, Jason on the pull-out couch, Lily in her room, Mark found Claire sitting on the back porch, looking at the stars. "Thank you," she said as he sat beside her. "For what?" "For making space for him. For understanding that he needs time with just me sometimes. For not trying to be his father." Mark took her hand. "He already has a father. He needs me to be something else, a friend, maybe. Someone who loves his mother and respects their relationship." Claire leaned her head against his shoulder. "I never thought I could have this again, a family, even if it's not traditional." "Speaking of family," Mark said, his heart suddenly racing. "I've been thinking." Claire lifted her head to look at him. "Yes?" Mark hadn't planned this moment. He had no ring, no prepared speech. But sitting there under the stars, with the woman who had walked into his life when he needed her most, he knew with absolute certainty what he wanted. "Marry me," he said simply. "Not right away. When we're ready. When the kids are ready. But someday." Claire's eyes widened. For a moment, she was silent, and Mark felt a flicker of doubt. Then she smiled, a smile that reached all the way to her eyes and erased the shadows that had been there when they first met. "Yes," she said. "Someday. When we're ready." They sealed the promise with a kiss, knowing that the road ahead would have its challenges. There would be teenage rebellions and diabetes complications, ex-spouses and work stress, blended family dynamics and all the ordinary difficulties of life. But they would face it together, one day at a time, with the knowledge that sometimes the most beautiful beginnings come from the most unexpected encounters, like a tired single dad and a lonely woman meeting in a hospital cafeteria, each carrying their own burdens, each finding in the other exactly what they needed most. 1 year later, they stood together in that same hospital cafeteria, now decorated with white ribbons and flowers. Lily, serving.